right, welcome. We are back with Fancy Fridays. I know it's been a while since we've done one of these. Yeah, it's been quite some time. And we're glad to be back. It's just been a very busy fall, but you know what? Glad to be back doing this. So with Fancy Fridays, if this is your first time checking us out, this is our weekly, hopefully weekly on a consistent basis. This is our weekly stream where we go review one of Kevin Lillard's old Fansview reports. Kevin Lillard, he was a legend in the anime community. He still is a legend to this day. Kevin Lillard is one of the OG cosplay photographers. And while he was known for cosplay photography, what I liked about Kevin Lillard is he did like a lot of detailed reports on conventions from coast to coast and everywhere in between. And his website, fansview.com, was very essential in the early days, in the early 2000s, late 90s, of anime conventions. You wanted to find your photo at a convention, Kevin took that photo of you. So, with that said, this week, this Friday, we'll be covering Fansview Report, Katsucon 2001. What was Katsucon like before the Gaylord era, before we had the gazebo of controversy? All right, so here we have Katsucon, which took place February 16th through 18th, 2001, in Arlington, Virginia. We have Amy Howard Wilson, that name sounds familiar, and Yunan Yule headed to Virginia in February. So looks like he divides Katsucon in two different sections, pictures and panels. Let's look at pictures first. And likewise, if you recognize the fandom that they're from, or if you recognize any of your friends in the photos, definitely shout it out in the comments, definitely shout it out in the chat. Because the more eyes on Fansview Fridays, the better. Because like I mentioned before, fansview.com was very essential in the late 90s and 2000s. And unfortunately, Fansview is no longer an active website after Kevin had passed. So a lot of what we're looking at right now is on webarchive.org. And even then, we were not sure how long web.archive.org is going to last. So this is just our way to preserve what Kevin brought to the community and also to preserve pieces of history of anime fandom. And we can just also see here what cosplay looked like back in the day. If that looks like a familiar face to you in the mermaid outfit, that is Yaya Han cosplaying as Madoka Ayukawa from one of my personal favorites, Kimagure Orange Road. I'm old enough of an anime fan to be all like, hey, I remember when Madoka was like a rom-com. In fact, it actually is like it's still like one of my top favorite anime rom-coms to this day. Scrolling down here. I also just like seeing like what were like the popular fandoms of the day here. As you can see, we're just starting to see like a lot of a lot of JRPGs. Utena. We have Sorcerer Hunters, Malice Miser. You know what? As of like a couple weeks ago, I've learned like, oh yeah, the way you pronounce it is Malice Miser. For some reason, I always thought it was Malice Miser. I had a friend named Justin. Oh, Nadeshiko. I love Nadeshiko. I had a friend named Justin who would cosplay as Mana, and I thought the way he was pronouncing Malice Miser, he would say Malice Miser. I thought it would. I thought it was like he was just being silly because Miser, if you're a cat person, if you've been involved in the cat community, Miser is like the nickname that we give Siamese cats. Siamese, Siameser. And I'm like, okay, maybe you're just being silly, just saying it as Malice Miser. Because last I checked, Gact is not a Siamese cat. But one can argue that Gact does have some Siamese cat energy. Okay, unfortunately, we do have some photos that won't load because some were not properly archived through the test of times. But what we'll do is we'll just go through as many as we can, just so we can just take a glimpse of fandom, how fans represented the things they loved back in the day. Also, what I like about looking at these old photos is it looks like a lot of these photos were just taken as people were getting out of registration because they're holding the registration bags. Also, while I'm not too big on wearing my badge as I'm getting my photo taken, there is a certain charm and a certain kind of historical kind of nostalgia just seeing like people wearing badges with their costumes. I still have like a lot of my old Anime Expo badges from back in the day, just safely stored like in. They're framed, and a lot of my current badges that I've kept throughout the years, I usually keep them in a shoebox. Yeah, tell me like how you store your convention badges. Like, do you just get rid of them at the end of the con? Do you store them like somewhere in a shoebox? Let me know in the comments like how do you store them. All right, 2001 is also the era where Kevin started taking more and more photos. We're seeing a lot of animal magnetism on here. Yeah, who remembers animal magnetism? I remember I had a couple of friends who wanted to cosplay as Mint because Mint was like easy mode cosplay. Mint, I believe, was a bird. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, we got the scroll character from Animal Magnetism. I think we had like the Catboy characters also in Animal Magnetism too, because the fluffy tail also implies that there was a group at the convention. But yeah, Mint was like this bird character. Didn't show any midriff, and hence she was cosplay safe for a lot of myself and my friends who just kind of felt nervous about showing midriff. Aw, that's a cute Anthe. Yes, I have Nanami. Yeah, a lot of representation of Malice Meeser cosplay here. Like, I'm impressed. We got Lena Inverse. Looks like we got more Visual K. Yeah, because I do remember in '01, that's when I started seeing and started recognizing a lot more Visual K cosplay in the cosplay scene. And that was just due to my friend who was cosplaying as Mana like 8 times during like a 4 day weekend. No, my buddy Justin was just totally dedicated to cosplay as Mana at like a lot of these cons. No photos. Okay, if there's two more pages of like no photos, we're moving on. Don't quite recognize those twins. Okay, let's move on to just some other photos of Katsucon. Here's a look at Friday group that made the costumes based on the Animal Magnetism game. All right, so it looks like we're getting more Animal Magnetism goodness. We'll go ahead and save this too. Yeah, Mint is the character that's like this minty bird thing looking here. I remember there was Barbara the snake. And there was like just a bunch of Catboy because I remember a few friends who wanted to cosplay as Catboy, and I actually had a friend who wanted to cosplay as Cow Person. Okay, looks like we only just got one photo of the Animal Magnetism group here. But yeah, kudos to the gal who cosplayed as Barbara the Snake. Because I remember a couple of my friends and I were thinking like, yeah, what if someone cosplayed as Barbara and just pull off the snake costume? I remember Digikara. I used to cosplay as Robbie on Rose because my mom wanted me to cosplay as Robbie on Rose. Oh, look at that. We got Ritsuko just about to head out to lunch. God, just Wolfwood just chilling there with the cross. Okay, we got Rama, Lupon. It's also neat seeing a Lupon cosplayer. Aw, Nadia. Lee Shauron. Duo Maxwell. Oh, we got Tomoyo just having a McDonald's. But if you do want to see like all the photos from Fansview of cosplayers, American Cosplay Paradise has archived all the cosplay photos. But remember, it's just the photos that they archive. So like back in the day to just really experience Fansview, you would just like go on their website and they would update their website like from day to day as they were at the con. So you would just wait for like all your photos to load up. If you're lucky like me at the time, I had cable internet. I had a high speed internet, which was lovely. And a lot of my friends were already in university, so like they were taking advantage of that nice T1 speed. And you just wait for your photo to load. And then if you had a friend who was in a photo, you'd be like, hey, I recognize you, blah, blah, blah. All right. There were fans surrounded by costumers on Saturday afternoon. Okay. Looks like we have Alice from Alice Madness Returns. I want to say that's Noriko. I love the hair. Let's see. We have Starfighter. Oh my god, we have Shin-chan. That is amazing. Okay, we have Mio and Larva. Emerald from Sailor Moon. Or if you want to be technical, Emerald from Sailor Moon. Still moving on. Okay, we have a cat girl of sorts. We have Mana from Malice Meezer. I've always loved this outfit. It was just the first time I saw this outfit was Anime Expo 2000, not knowing it was from Malice Meezer, and I'm like, I would love to wear a dress like that at a convention. Okay, if there are no further photos, we can move on to the next set of pages. Okay. Oh, I love the outfit. I do love the leopard print. I also remember that this was a huge era of like femme presenting folks dressing up like in like furry leopard print, just getting like just fur trims and just making like an original cat girl outfit. Okay, we got Surge from Chrono Cross. It's one of those Chrono games. I love how Parappa is like photobombing the Spike Spiegel outfit here. Looks like we're only getting one per page. Huh, sadness. I just want to make sure that like we cover as much as we can. Okay, if there are no other photos loading, we're gonna just go ahead and just go on to the next one. Okay, bonus shot of costuming groups, the Iron Cat calendar models. Okay, that probably explains why there was like a lot of cat girl-ness. It's unfortunate that Steve's not in the live stream right now. I actually wanted to be a part of the Iron Cat calendar back when I was first getting acquainted with the scene, and I had like this idea of like doing this like mini Cheongsam type of cat girl dress. Looks like this is American Cosplay Paradise. And again, American Cosplay Paradise, they have archived a lot of the old photos from Fansview. So if you want to see all the full photos, I recommend just heading over to American Cosplay Paradise to see all the photos from Fansview. Because they've also rescued the photos that weren't, that will definitely load. Oh yeah, the cosplayers mailing list. I wasn't a part of the cosplayer mailing list. This was like before my time, but I remembered that the Yahoo cosplay mailing list was a very much beloved nostalgia part of the cosplay community back in the late 90s. And a big group of Cowboy Bebop costumers. Yeah, because this is around the time when Bebop was just getting pretty huge. And that was before it aired on Toonami. Okay, we got the three lights over here. I always applaud people who can pull off the three lights outfits because I can't. We have a Gundam Wing group over here. Ash Ketchum. I always feel like Ash Ketchum cosplay are very evergreen. I love how the duo is holding a death scythe. Just scrolling through. More Visual K goodness. Okay, photos aren't quite loading, but let's see what loads in the next couple of pages. If not, we'll just move on. Oh, hey, we have Guy on keyboard. I'm not sure what he's from, but if anyone knows, you can drop that info in the comments. Okay, we have more costumers here, cosplayers. Just scrolling through. Oh, we have Meal from that one crazy gender bent isekai maze of the haze. Okay, scrolling through. Oh, I love that Princess Serenity. We got Mercury over there. And just mind you, this was during a time when we had very limited resources for cosplay. You either had to know someone who could make your costume or you kind of had to figure it out yourself. We didn't really have Amazon, AliExpress, Doki Doki to like just turn to. You just kind of had to just sort of figure it out and just kind of improvise from there. A lot of my old costumes, they were just like Goodwill finds. Like Fujiko cosplay, okay, going to the vintage store, getting a pink dress, just gonna like adjust the hem, and it's Fujiko on the PS2 game opening cover. All right, looks like we've ran out of photos to load. All right, and the costumers kept coming on Saturday evening. I think this is our last batch of Saturday before we look into the cosplay contest. This guy had his flag signed. That's a cute Pikachu. We got Sailor Pluto, Sailor Saturn. We have Anthony and Dios, or Akio, whichever you prefer. You're expecting Akio, but it was me, Dios. We have Anthony. You have to give credit where credit's due on some of these complicated costumes. Especially when we didn't have a lot of tutorial for like armor work back then. Look at that phone booth. A relic of its time. Not just any cipher, I'm ultimate. That is hilarious. Okay, just scrolling through. That's an amazing Alucard. Yeah, Tomoyo and Sakura. Let's see if there's any more on page 9 that we can take a look at. Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, let's just take a look at, of course, there are lots of pictures of the Saturday night costume contest. All right, let's see who is brave enough to enter in. Okay, looks like we got 11 pages of photos here. Let's just take a look-see. Yeah, scrolling through. Yeah, Fushigi Yugi was still pretty huge at the time. It was just one of those fandoms like where I wish I had a costume, but I didn't really have the resources like to. Oh, look at this Moogle. But I didn't really have like a lot of resources to make a lot of those complicated and intricate kind of Chinese outfits. Scroll down here. Okay. Looks like not a lot of the images are loading. Let's just try one more time, and if it's not loading, we'll go forward to just seeing like what the next batch of photos look like. Okay. All right, so that's a costume contest. And the complete list of winners selected by the judges. Looks like we got an Angel Sanctuary group that took top honors. Jeff Thompson's award. Rob Finnelan's award. Amy Fraga's award. Steve Bennett's award is unknown. Craftsmanship Division. Best presentation. Aw, I love Gunbuster. Journeyman, Best Craftsmanship and Presentation. Novice, Best Craftsmanship and Presentation went to, looks like an Evangelion versus Slayers. Young Fan Division. Yeah, Vash Stampede, and I'm not quite sure what this other character is, but if you know, let us know in the comments. Okay, here's a closer look at the 9-person group that won Best of Show. Yeah, Angel Sanctuary. I'm not a huge fan of Angel Sanctuary, but I do like the outfits. I do like the artwork. I think it's because like I was just a huge fan of X 1999. I kind of felt like this was like X 1999 from Temu. But like the artwork's pretty. The same author had another manga called Godchild that was serialized in Shoujo Beat. I liked that one over Angel Sanctuary. But yeah, I love these guys' costumes. I think they all did a great job. And I'll have to like look up their skit online. And they're the handsome hunks of Cosmen. So let's go ahead and save this too. Yep, that's the Cosmen. Because back then American Cosplay Paradise mainly focus on female cosplayers. When Cosmen, at the time it was called Cosmen, and that was mostly focused on male cosplayers. And I think they rebranded themselves to American Cosplay Experience. But I think we live in a world now, it's like binary, whatever. Finally, here's a look at some of the costumers from Saturday night. All right, we only have 3 pages. Let's just look at some Saturday night cosplayers. I love the Nanami here and how she's doing the oh ho ho kind of pose. Okay, we got Final Fantasy 8. I am a Gundam. Oh my god, I love this so much. Yeah, we have Merle. Let's see. Okay, just scrolling through. All right, I guess that's it for cosplay photos. And now let's go to my favorite part. Let's go through the panels section of Katsucon. It looks like we only had like four of these on here. All right, artists were among the early arrivals at the convention. No surprise that Steve Bennett of Studio Iron Cat was one of the first faces as seen at Katsucon drawing as ever. As in contrast to styles, here's Yaya Han, the artist who created the page's mascot, in an Ayukawa Madoka costume. Oh, I had no idea she created the mascot here. So let me just sort of screenshot this really quick because I had no idea she drew the mascot. And another artist noted, illustrator Newton Yule. And Fred Perry started the weekend in the Artist Alley, but the Gold Digger artist was expected to head the video game room. Actor Amy Howard, now Amy Howard Wilson, getting married in October to Dave Wilson. She hints that the honeymoon in Great Britain nearly was flooded out. Completing the early glance at artists, here's also Calwood of Sand Knights getting ready to work. You wouldn't believe the amount of stuff he was carrying. Okay, let's take a look at more of the panels and anecdotes. Katsucon had some fresh guests of honor to introduce and some planned guests who weren't able to attend. All right, looks like we're going into opening ceremonies territory. When the people in charge of Katsucon gathered on stage for the opening ceremonies, they had to spend some time talking about who was on hand and who wasn't there. Two of the biggest names advertised for the convention weren't able to show up because of work and literally flames. Definitely on hand was Jeff Thompson, the producer of The Right Stuff, and Toshi Yoshida of Viz Video. From the Sand Knights publishing house came writer I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Ben Caraskillo and Austin Callwood at the microphone, who announced that their first book was finished after more than a year of work. There were two Bennett brothers from Studio Iron Cat, Kevin Bennett and Steve Bennett is borrowed bunny ears, and Tristan McAvery got on stage. Artist and writer Colleen Doran was on hand to celebrate the 10th anniversary of her major work, A Distant Soil. Superfan and amateur historian Rob Fenelon got on stage to teach a couple of history lessons to fans. Man, I wish we still had fandom historians as guests of honor, because I would totally be all about that. But other guests decided they've heard enough and gently removed Fenelon from the stage in good humor. Artist Fred Perry made a popular appearance at one of his home state conventions. Amy Howard Wilson made her first convention appearance with her new name and new husband. Artist Newton Yule said it was nice to get out of the People's Republic of Utah for a while. I need to screenshot this. The People's Republic of Utah. I will start referring to the state as such. New to Katsucon was the Florida animation group Humoring the Fates, which was moved into commercial animation to works in an anime style. Then, in the Who's That moment of the evening, actor Michael Brady was announced as a surprise guest of honor, even though he wasn't listed as a guest in the program. The What's That moment came from animator Jan Scott Fraser appeared in bunny ears, which was still less elaborate than the dress she wanted to have worn at the convention. Aww. More animation talk came from Kara Dennison and Sean the Touched. Kara has provided voices of some of Sean's films. The parade of animators continued with the web animator Tony Bash, only to be interrupted by actor Doug Smith. I love Doug Smith's origin voice actor story. Finally, another newcomer to the convention was introduced, actor David Kay, who was accompanied by Yoshida, who has produced around one half episodes in which Kay has appeared. So, what about the guests of honor who were announced but did not show? Artist Leah Hernandez and producer Shin Kurakawa had to work on pressing projects. Superfan Steve Pearl had pneumonia, and actor Jessica Calvello was voicing a detonator Orgris role. The tough news came from animator Nobuo Ishiguro, head of Artland Studios. 1 week before Katsucon, a fire from a kerosene space heater started in a neighborhood building and spread across Artland's offices. I remember hearing about this. Leaving a mess of charred and soaked and melted equipment. Ishiguro sent a videotape documenting the damage to Katsucon, apologized for his need to stay in Japan and get his company through the trouble, and he intended to attend the convention in 2002. Finally, came the annual word for Katsucon fans to eat enough food and drink enough water so they don't collapse. Fans also were cautioned not to carry realistic looking toy guns at the convention to make sure police didn't mistake toys for the real thing. Alright, a voice from Ranma one half met the fans on Saturday. David Kay doesn't have much to say about. David Kay doesn't have much to say to get the fans cheering. Akane Hibiki, "How I've waited for this day," is enough to delight people who have enjoyed Rama one half performances for the last 8 years. But this actor has done more than anime voiceover. He has been the voice of Megatron and Professor Xavier in the most recent X-Men show. Kay's presence had the fans at Katsucon sitting on the floor of the main meeting room to hear him speak. During his presentation, Kay would use 3 or 4 voices in 1 minute. He compares the process of creating voice changing the tuner on the amplifier, saying, "It's all in the tweaking." Young voices tend to be of high register, while hearers fall in the middle. And the more you read the character description, the more you find the voice and the important to find the laugh. That's a major part of the character. What's the difference between anime and Saturday morning cartoons? Kay thinks it's the stories. Anime stories feature long arcs, while Saturday cartoons are episodic, self-contained shows. Kay noted that one show he worked on was changed because of a sponsor wanted to sell more toys. He especially likes how anime fans are encouraged to explore and embrace a culture of their own, other than their own. What about the acting? Kay thinks there's not much difference in the way he approaches American TV cartoons and anime dubbing. It all has to come from a place of truth, he said. You'd have to approach them as real characters. His favorite character is still Megatron, by the way. All right, let's go through Kevin's final thoughts of Katsucon. Around 1:15 a.m. Sunday, the author sat at his keyboard in his hotel room, looked at the number of pictures he had taken and uploaded, and thought, that was intense. Just like Otakon 6 months earlier, the costumers were the big star of this event, which is why this page spent so much time chasing them. In 2 days, the author was on hand. The big costume groups that gathered on Saturday were impressive, and the author has to note that the artist for the site's mascot was among the members of the group that won Best of Show. As much work as the group put into their act, with weeks of dance rehearsal, the most amazing individual effort may have been the Ray and Asuka plugsuit pair on Saturday, who brought with them a 6-foot lance of longness made out of cast iron. The author didn't think it was possible for anything in real life to hold the shape of the fork spiral object from Neon Genesis Evangelion. A lot of credit is due to the person who forged and welded that metal together, and who carried it around for most of Saturday. The author admits to a prejudice towards costumers, but then the visitors to this page seem to feel the same way. Costuming is the most accessible part of the convention, and the number of camera-bearing fans might have set some sort of record at Katsucon, along with a number of very, very young fans. A friend called Katsucon BabyCon, and you have to be at a show to appreciate that. It seemed as if there were dozens of infants at the convention, brought by their parents and taken around a hotel in strollers. That's an important point. It shows that anime conventions can be considered more of a family show than a frat party. When people bring their infants to the convention, it means families think the events are safe, just like taking the kids to the state fair or a big parade. The author is gratified at the positive way in which people react to his page as it moves into its fourth full year of covering conventions. The second recent gift of a set of cat ears was greatly appreciated. Then there were the messages from the people who were worried about the broken links they found on Friday night of the convention weekend. An image upload had to be stopped, the data link bogged down, and it turned out there were people who were trying to view the images in mid-upload. Those quickly let the author know the situation, which was resolved by switching ISPs and access numbers. The author messed up another hyperlink for a few hours on Saturday, sigh, but at least he didn't get bombed by the US and British Air Forces. The author had barely gotten to his hotel on Friday afternoon of the Katsucon weekend and switched to the TV set where he saw the ABC News Special Report logo on the screen. That was the end of the first report of US bombing of Iraq that weekend. As with most anime conventions, the news of the real world didn't have a huge impact on the surface, but it got to the attention of some people. Not only was the White House just across the Potomac River from the convention and the Pentagon was a couple of miles north, but some people who organized Katsucon work for the U.S. Department of Defense in real life. They learned of the attack. They wondered if they'd be able to spend the rest of the weekend at the convention. Readers of these notes may wonder if the author has had fascination with disaster because there are often references to real-world tragedies that happen around the same time as the conventions covered. It's not as bad as it looks. It's the author's way of saying that conventions, despite their faults, are a lot better than the sad things that happen away from the events. Call it the "whew, I'm glad it didn't happen here" syndrome. That was the case in 2000 when there was an armed robbery with gunfire at a jewelry store 1 block away from Tukwila, Washington, where Sakura-Con was held. By the way, this is now where the Southgate Mall is at, if for those of you listening in from the Seattle area. At the same time, the convention staged its closing ceremonies. It didn't take much imagination to see the chaos that would have been broken out if the gunmen had run into the inn. And the same sort of feelings that a bullet had been dodged, so to speak, came 3 weeks before Katsucon. That's when a story broke about the 19-year-old California man who planned to wage an armed assault on the college where he was a student. The place he planned to attack was De Anza College in Cupertino, California, which is a 15-minute drive from the Santa Clara Convention Center, where FanmaCon is scheduled in late March. The student had a weapon cache at home, which was only 5 miles east of the convention center. He would have devastated the De Anza campus had he gotten a chance to use his full arsenal, and the attack would have come only a couple months before FanmaCon. Fortunately, a clerk had processed some film where the student spotted pictures of the weapons and called the police, and the officers were able to spot the student before he was able to attack and kill. It doesn't take much imagination to understand the impact this one person would have had if he hadn't been stopped. The gun and weapons situation was taken seriously at Katsucon during the opening ceremonies. Fans got an unusually detailed and serious lecture on why they should not carry anything that looks like a real gun at the convention. Turns out that Virginia has a law which makes it very easy for the police to shoot you if they think you're carrying a real firearm, even if they discover it was just a toy after they pry it out of your hand. The only low point of the weekend at Katsucon came on Friday morning when the author drove to the airport and saw nothing but low-hanging clouds, haze, and fog. Often that weather means canceled flights, pessimism as hung low as the fog when the author didn't hear the sounds of engines as he walked through the terminal. And then came a comfortable roar at the sight of the Lockheed TriStar taking off, and the author felt a lot better. From a few seconds after takeoff to a few seconds before landing at Reagan National Airport, there was nothing but solid cloud cover, but the flight arrived in good shape. It was odd to look out the window at the airport runway, search for the familiar sight of the Washington Monument, and to have trouble spotting the spire because the clouds were so thick. However, the sun shone brightly on Saturday and the crowds packed the hotel. As for the one Katsucon panel being covered by this site, as industrious as this author may seem to be, he's really a lazy person. The path of the least resistance at Katsucon was to take pictures of customers, especially with the layout of the hotel. Most conventions are on a single floor, but the convention area, the Hyatt Regency Crystal City, is like a 5-story building. The main halls are on the first level, and the rooms are used for panel discussions are on the fifth level. The escalators go up only to the fourth level, and then you have to find stairs to the fifth level. That sounds like a pain in the butt. No, it wasn't possible to easily get an elevator between floors on Saturday. The convention staff kept asking people to walk between floors, leading to the weekend's chant of stairs, stairs, stairs. The situation will likely be different in 2002 when Katsucon moved 60 miles northeast at a Marriott hotel in the inner harbor of Baltimore. Yes, that's the same city where Otakon is now located and will be for several years to come, the author was told. It looks like as if there will be plenty of fans for both conventions as long as Katsucon stays in the winter and Otakon is held in the summer. As for the lack of Katsucon material from Saturday, this 2-day coverage will happen at several conventions in 2001, but not the next two. The author has the plane tickets on in hand for FanmaCon and SakuraCon. He's planning to be at those events all 3 days. No, the author did not go to Daytona 500. He watched it on TV behind a desk, seeing one of his favorite driver, Tony Stewart, go flying through the air in the mid-race wreck, and another favorite driver, Michael Waltrip, win the race. Then came the word later in the evening that Dale Earnhardt has been killed in his last lap crash. The author spent some time Sunday night speaking to another race fan, distraught and in tears, and who was overcome by Earnhardt's death. That fan had an Earnhardt shrine. He had even had his pickup truck painted like Earnhardt's black number 3, and he couldn't bear the loss of his hero. The author is a committed anime and racing fan. He spent the weekend before Katsucon with 55,000 other racing fans at an indoor motorcycle race. The author can't imagine life without anime or racing, but NASCAR without Earnhardt is hard to imagine. Okay, that is it for Fansview Fridays, Katsucon 2001. Let's take a look at what will be our next convention that we will be covering. So if we go here on our previous reports, we have SakuraCon coming up. Well, we might have a special guest for SakuraCon this month in December. If not, we'll probably go ahead and cover Animazement 2001. I believe we've already covered Anime Central 2001 on this website. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing fairly soon. We've already covered FanmaCon. So yeah, this is going to be some interesting times. I'll let you know I'll keep you guys up to date. Hopefully, we'll be having a much more consistent streaming schedule. Again, fall has been really busy, but if you stayed with us throughout the whole entirety of Fansview Fridays, thank you so much for checking us out. Feel free to check out our archive of past videos so you can relive what conventions were like in the 90s and early 2000s. And we just scratched the surface on 2001, and we look forward to covering more in the near future. And with that said, the convention is what you make of it, so make it a good one, and we'll see you at the con.